Islamic philosophy breaks the whole world into two camps: Dar al-Islam, the house of surrender or house of submission, and Dar al-Harb, the house of war or the house of infidels. Muhammad himself started this distinction. Muslim Brotherhood theologian and terrorist Sayyid Qutb was executed by the Egyptian government in 1966. Before his death, he wrote,
"The whole world in the eyes of Islam is divided into two. The first is Dar al-Islam, and the second is Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Islam is where the Sharia law of Islam alone is implemented. Dar al-Harb is any land where the infidels' law is dominant."
Islamic law, or Sharia law as it's called, is based on the Quran and Muhammad's traditions. Non-Muslim nations are infidels, the house of war, because these nations have not surrendered to Sharia law. Muslims are called to fight the house of war or house of infidels until non-Muslims submit and join the house of surrender by confessing there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, and by instituting Sharia law. Muhammad said,
"I have been commanded to fight people until they testify that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. If they say it, they have saved their blood and possessions from me."
After Muhammad conquered most of the Arabian Peninsula, he sent out multiple letters to neighboring rulers, urging them to accept Islam, then threatening them if they did not. Within 100 years of his death, Muslim armies had brutally conquered more square miles than the Roman Empire at its peak. A key weapon in this ongoing war of Islam against the world is deception, or taqiyya. Muhammad taught that for Muslims to deceive non-Muslims is perfectly acceptable if it furthers the cause of Muhammad and Islam. Let's look at some of the uses of deception, starting with the Quran. Deception about the true nature of Muhammad and Islam is present in two key issues in the Quran: its chronology and the practice of abrogation. If you've ever read the Quran, you know it's difficult to read and difficult to understand. One reason is because it's not in chronological order. There's no timeline. The first revelation Muhammad said he got from Gabriel is chapter 96 in the Quran. And the chapter, the spoils, that came right after the Battle of Badr, more than a decade after chapter 96, is placed as chapter 8. Some of the chapters, or surahs as they're called, are not a single so-called revelation. A chapter can have verses from different revelations at different times, and some revelations Muhammad said he got were split up and scattered in various parts of the Quran. It can be confusing. The Quran has 114 chapters. Chapter 1 is short. After that, the longest chapters are at the beginning, and as the chapters go forward, they get shorter. The last 20 chapters average only 7 verses each. The Quran was not written by Muhammad. It was recited by him, dictated, because he was illiterate. He couldn't read and write. Muhammad said of himself and his followers in the Quran,
"Those who follow the messenger, the prophet who can neither read nor write, believe in Allah and his messenger, the prophet who can neither read nor write, and follow him that happily ye may be led aright."
Since the Quran came in just a 20-year span in a pocket of Arabia from the vantage point of one illiterate man, it's parochial and repetitious. It lacks breadth and depth. The chaotic nature of the Quran can be used to deceive and confuse non-Muslims and Muslims alike, especially when coupled with the practice of abrogation. Abrogation means to cancel or to repeal. The Muslim doctrine of abrogation teaches the last command stands. This means the last command issued by Muhammad, if it's different from earlier commands, the last one is the binding one that Muslims should obey. So, if non-Muslims don't know the chronology of the Quran or understand the practice of abrogation, they can be easily deceived. Deceptive Muslim advocates continue to parrot the line, Islam is a religion of peace, and Muhammad was a man of peace. And they assure us that Muslim terrorists have perverted Islam. They'll even quote verses from the Quran.
There is no compulsion in religion. Many of the followers of the book wish that they could turn you back into unbelievers, but pardon and forgive them.
But then, Muslim terrorists also quote the Quran.
Fight those who do not believe in Allah, nor follow the religion of truth, Islam, out of those who have been given the book, until they pay the tax in acknowledgement of superiority, and they are in a state of subjection, and fight with them until there is no more fitna, disorder, unbelief, and religion should be only for Allah.
The questions that Muslim scholars ask is, when did Muhammad get a revelation? When he was in Mecca and peaceful, or in Medina when he was calling his men to violence? 1,200 years ago, the Muslim jurist Shafi'i wrote that a Muslim scholar must be
one who knows the Holy Quran completely, including what verses are abrogated, and by which verses they were abrogated, and whether a chapter was revealed in Mecca or Medina.
Or put another way, was an order from Muhammad before or after the Battle of Badr. The verses after Badr that call for violence cancel the peaceful verses that came before Badr. Muhammad's frequent changes of Quranic revelations caused many people at that time to say that he was fabricating the whole thing and then altering the Quran to suit his needs at the moment, that he was a forger. To rebuff this accusation, Muhammad said he got a revelation in the Quran about abrogation.
Nothing of our revelation, even a single verse, do we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, but we bring in place one better or the like therefore. Knowest thou not that Allah is able to do all things?
This is an admission from Muhammad that he forgot certain verses, since they were committed to his memory and not written down.
When we substitute one revelation for another, and Allah knows best what He reveals in stages, they say, Thou art but a forger, but most of them understand not.
Muhammad dismissed the charge that he was a forger and justified abandoning peaceful revelations for violent ones by claiming that Allah was revealing the Quran to him in stages and that his critics just didn't understand. From the Battle of Badr forward, dozens of peaceful verses were abrogated by hundreds of verses that call for terror and war and subjugation. Since the violent commands came last, such as fight them until none but Allah is worshipped, Muslims are to obey the last verses. Fight them. This is how abrogation is connected to deception. Muslim apologists can assure us that Muhammad was a man of peace and be deliberately deceiving us because they're focusing on Muhammad in Mecca before the Battle of Badr to paint a better picture of Muhammad. They deliberately ignore his calls to violence from Badr forward. This is deceit by omission, deceit that was authorized by Muhammad. He actually gave permission to people to deceive them about him. In order to murder the poet Ka'b, Muhammad's men deceived him. They lied about a business deal. They lied about Muhammad. They even slandered him to get close enough to Ka'b to kill him. The lead assassin actually went to Muhammad ahead of time to get his permission to lie.
O messenger of God, we shall have to tell lies.
Say what you like. You are absolved in the matter.
Go ahead, lie. Just kill him. They lied to the victim by leading him to believe that they were not serious followers of Muhammad and that Muhammad's presence in Medina was a burden. As their poem says,
By Muhammad's order, when he sent us secretly by night, Ka'b's brother, to go to Ka'b, he beguiled him and brought him down with guile, seeking victory for the religion of their prophet.
modern-day Muslim terrorists or apologists mimic this deceptive behavior. They too use guile, seeking victory for the religion of their prophet. For example, when the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR as it's known, says Muhammad was a man of peace, they're deceiving non-Muslims, and for that matter, other Muslims who don't know Muhammad's history. CAIR knows that Muhammad ordered horrific acts of violence. Let's focus on two more voices of deception, and there are hundreds to choose from. The Muslim Brotherhood and a Muslim author in America named Reza Aslan. The Muslim Brotherhood was founded in Egypt in 1928 by a 22-year-old Muslim teacher and watch repairman named Hassan al-Banna. Al-Banna assured the Egyptian government that the Muslim Brotherhood was peaceful. He registered the Brotherhood as a benevolent society. Yet his founding motto was,
God is our goal. The Quran is our constitution. The Prophet is our leader. Jihad is our way. And death in the service of Allah is the loftiest of our wishes. Allah Akbar.
Al-Banna ran for political office on 2 occasions. While Al-Banna publicly claimed loyalty to the government, he built the Secret Apparatus, a terrorist wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, to fight the Egyptian government, the British, and wherever needed, to violently advance the agenda of Islam. Their goal was and is to restore the Muslim world into one nation under one caliph, one successor of Muhammad. That's the goal of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and every other Sunni terrorist group in the world. One Muslim nation under one caliph. The Muslim Brotherhood founder wrote,
Jihad is an obligation from Allah on every Muslim and cannot be ignored nor evaded. Allah has ascribed great importance to jihad and has made the reward of the martyrs and the fighters in His way a splendid one. Their pure blood is a symbol of victory in this world and the mark of success and felicity in the world to come.
This hypocrisy and deceit could not stay hidden. In 1948, the Egyptian government discovered the Muslim Brotherhood's special apparatus, its involvement in murders, bomb making, and that the Brotherhood was part of the assassination of the leader of Yemen. The government outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood, but it had grown too powerful to be destroyed. They would fight back. Within 2 weeks, a Muslim Brotherhood assassin, dressed as an Egyptian officer, shot and killed the Egyptian prime minister. The founder of the Muslim Brotherhood publicly condemned the prime minister's assassination while he was helping to organize a terrorist wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. This depth of deception is in the very fabric of the Muslim Brotherhood. In recent times, the so-called chief theologian for the Muslim Brotherhood, Yusuf Qaradawi, issued a fatwa. A fatwa is a legal or judicial ruling from a Muslim scholar. In it, he called on Muslims to kill Americans in Iraq. Devout Muslims responded and murdered many Americans, both military and civilian. The murders continue to this day. Then, Qaradawi issued another fatwa, this time live on Al Jazeera TV, calling for the assassination of Libya's leader, Muammar Gaddafi.
I now issue a fatwa urging officers and soldiers who can kill Muammar Gaddafi, shoot him down, and relieve the people and the country of this burden.
Devout Muslims again responded to his call and brutally killed Gaddafi. The U.S. government was largely involved in Gaddafi's downfall, but was unable to ensure that a better government would replace him. Muslim terrorists now control large portions of Libya. They have created terrorist training and staging grounds. They're responsible for the beheading of the 19 Coptic Christians on the Libyan shore, and they attacked our embassy in Benghazi, killing our ambassador and 3 other Americans. The so-called Arab Spring, which helped with the rise of ISIS, was unleashed by Qaradawi and the Muslim Brotherhood. During this exact spike in Muslim terrorism, the Muslim Brotherhood in England sent out a press release.
The group's principle and ideology, which it has been teaching its members for more than 80 years in all parts of the world, are perfectly peaceful and all its methods are non-violent.
This is a lie. And it was written after their chief theologian called for the killing of Americans and the assassination of Gaddafi. Virtually every Muslim terrorist group in the world traces its origins and its guiding philosophy to the Muslim Brotherhood, especially Hassan al-Banna's and Sayyid Qutb's writings. And the Muslim Brotherhood traces its mission to Muhammad, declaring,
The Prophet is our leader.
Muslim groups in Europe and America and all over the world have links with the Muslim Brotherhood, and they are very clever at the art of deception, deceiving the house of infidels while they seek victory for Islam. Reza Aslan, the Muslim author of No God But God, is a frequent guest on many TV and radio shows in the U.S. He is a master of deception regarding the history of Muhammad. For example, look at his treatment of Muhammad's relationship to 2 women, the Jewish Rehana and the Christian Copt Maria. Muhammad had multiple wives when he died, almost 10. Aslan wrote,
With very few exceptions, these marriages were not sexual unions, but political ones. Muhammad's marriage to Rehana, a Jew, linked him with the Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza, while his marriage to Maria, a Christian and a Copt, created a significant political alliance with the Christian ruler of Egypt.
This is a lie. First, these women were not Muhammad's wives. They were his concubines. In Islam, concubine means,
especially in Muslim societies, a woman residing in a harem and kept for sexual purposes. Odalisque, a woman slave in a harem.
Al-Tabari wrote of these 2 women.
on account of the messenger of God's slave concubines. They were Maria binti Sham Darkob and Rayana from Banu Qurayza.
Al-Tabari was clear. They were not Muhammad's wives. They were his slave concubines. Muhammad kept them for his sexual satisfaction, not to forge political links, as Aslan says. His deception continues.
His marriage to Rayhana, a Jew, linked him with the Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza.
This is also a lie. The Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza was extinct. They were massacred at Muhammad's order. Every male who had reached puberty was decapitated. The women and children were distributed among the Muslims as slaves.
Then the apostle divided the property, wives, and children of Banu Qurayza among the Muslims.
Muhammad enslaved Rayhana.
The apostle had chosen one of their women for himself, Rayhana, and she remained with him until she died in his power.
And again, Al-Tabari discusses her sexual slavery in a very spiritual fashion.
God granted Rayhana of the Banu Qurayza to his messenger as booty.
Rayhana was booty to Muhammad, a prize of war from Allah, a sexual slave, not a wife. Likewise, Maria, the Coptic Christian, was a sexual slave. Muhammad had sent a threatening letter to the leader of the Copts, urging him to become a Muslim and warning him of the results if he did not.
I invite you to accept Islam. If you accept, you will find peace, and you will save your throne. If you turn your back on this offer, the responsibility for the disaster to befall your subjects belongs to you.
The leader of the Copts declined the offer, but sadly, he sent the sexual slave Maria to Muhammad as a gift. Shortly after Muhammad's death, as Muhammad threatened, disaster struck the Copts. Saber-slashing Muslims flooded Egypt, killing and enslaving them. The persecution of the Coptic Christians and the killings continue to this day in Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood, the Council on American Islamic Relations, men like Reza Aslan, myriads of Muslim advocates are knowingly deceiving non-Muslims in the House of Infidels, as they call us, as well as unaware Muslims regarding Muhammad's oppressive acts and his threats to those who refused to submit to him. Let us not be deceived any longer about the true nature of Muhammad and Islam as he started it. The House of Islam is at war with the House of Infidels, and Muhammad gave them permission to lie. He said it clearly.
War is deception.
And devout Muslims are using deception as a weapon of war against all non-Muslims while they seek victory for the religion of Muhammad.